Morning, boys. We're down at the shop today working on my new 1998 third gen Toyota 4Runner. Here it is. So I picked up this project about 2 weeks ago now, and I'm super excited to get started on it. I got a bunch of big plans for it. I got a bunch of long-term plans for it, and I got some short-term plans for it. First and foremost, this thing has 340,000 miles. The timing belt sticker on it says the timing belt was done about 200,000 miles ago. So before I drive it anymore, I drove it home from Sacramento, and I drove it to the shop today. And we're gonna do the timing belt first and foremost, just to make sure that there's no problems there. After that, I got a little bit of maintenance, oil changes. I'm gonna do a trans service. I got some other parts and pieces coming. I'm gonna gut the entire interior from front to back, seats, center consoles, door cards, carpet, everything's coming out, and it's gonna get thoroughly pressure washed. I mean, this thing is nasty. It's got melted candy in the little door handle things. It's got all kinds of junk in the door pockets, center console. Carpet is disgusting. So I'm taking everything out from front to back, pressure wash it, get it all cleaned up, dried out nice. That way I can start with kind of a fresh vehicle. It smells in there, it's dirty, whatever. It's got 350,000 miles on it. It's been around the block. So starting with the timing belt, oil change, and ripping the interior out, getting it cleaned up in there. The suspension is all clapped out. So in the interim, I got some Bilstein 5100s I'm gonna put in with some 5th gen 4Runner rear springs that'll fix the sag in the rear and lift it about 1 inch, I gather. The fronts are adjustable perches, so I'll be able to level it out with that. If not, I got some coilover spacers, some little 1/2-inch spacers that I could put on top. And then once all that's said and done, you get to see me try to put these bad boys on there. Those are 37s on a set of trail gear bead locks, and I'm going no lift, 1-inch lift, 1.5-inch lift, and I'm gonna make them fit. This thing's got the E-locker. I have 529 gears coming front and rear, and those 37s, and I'm gonna see what I can do with it. I'm collecting parts as we speak to solid axle swap it, to put 1-tons under it, and eventually 40s and roll cage and all that whole thing. But before that happens, and hopefully before this season is out, I want to wheel this thing through the Rubicon on 37s. So with IFS, with the way it sits, I got a bunch of cool stuff to do to it. So today's just a maintenance day, and we're gonna get as much done as we can. Timing belt, oil change, and hopefully get that interior pulled out, washed, and put back in when it's all dry. So let's get to it. Pro Tech. It's probably junk. Whenever you're doing an oil change and you're changing out the filter, you want to make sure that you replace it with an oil filter. I see some of these guys, they put these little things on that don't actually say oil filter on them. And in my experience, just because it looks like an oil filter and acts like an oil filter and threads on and fits doesn't mean that it's actually an oil filter unless it says it right on there, like this quality item right here. All right, now the oil change is done. Took the water out, put the oil in. It's time to tackle this timing belt, which is going to be the same kind of thing. Take the water out, but this time we're going to put water back in because it's the cooling system. So you don't want to put oil in the cooling system, and you don't want to put water in the oiling system. A couple of tips I've learned over the years. So yeah, stick around if you want more advice. Alright, let's get you boys in here. Well, as you can tell, it actually doesn't look that bad. Not a whole lot of cracking. But you can tell by like some of the buildup and remnants and stuff around here that it's been a long time. So everything looks pretty good. Came apart pretty easy. I've never actually had to use a puller on this pulley. This thing usually pops right out, but today's my lucky day, I guess. So we'll keep going with this. Got to pop the tensioner out, all the idlers off, pull the belt off, pull the water pump off, and then it's just line everything up. Toyota does these really nice marks on the belt. So there's a mark on the belt on this cam, and then on the crank, and you just line everything up, and it's just good to go. Well, new belt's on. All my marks are lined up. I have rotated it over one time, so the belt doesn't line up anymore, but all my marks line up right here, right here. So now, you know, it's a reverse of removal or whatever. I'm just gonna slap it back together and be done with the timing belt, be done with the oil change, and move on to something else. This is the type of stuff I'm dealing with. She's just filthy. So I'm gonna rip all this out, pressure wash everything. Get the door cards, get the center console, super nasty. Pressure wash the rug. The whole thing. What is that? Is it semen or mold or what is that? Ugh. Oh, ladybug. Ooh. Exciting. It is all emptied out, stained up, nasty. This is almost like a must for buying a used car, especially one with 340,000 miles. So I'm gonna vacuum this out real quick and then rip it out and vacuum what's underneath it. Alright guys, it's the next day. I got the carpet and everything torn out last night. So today's big project is to pressure wash that and then tackle the suspension. I went out last night and got a set of 5th Gen 4Runner rear stock springs that I gather will lift it about inch and a half in the back. And then I got Bilstein 5100s all around. The fronts are actually adjustable. There's 4 different height settings. I'll show them to you right now. So this is going to be my suspension setup. These are the front shocks, and you can see that they have 1, 2, 3, 4 points of adjustment. They come down here. I've already moved them up here. And then this spring perch sits on here. So this should give me a little bit of lift. I'm thinking 2 inches. We'll see. If it's not enough, I have these left over from when I used to have a 3rd Gen 4Runner. These are pretty standard 5100 rear shocks. They are good for 0 to 2 inches of lift. And these are some OEM 5th Gen 4Runner rear springs that I picked up. Those should give me, from what I see, about 1 3/4, 1.5 3/4 inches of lift in the back. So I think this is going to be a pretty good setup, very budget friendly, and all the lift I really need. I'm going to put 37s on it, but in order to do that, I'm going to cut into the cab and trim the fenders and get everything to fit at a relatively low ride height. But first things first, I got to pressure wash this carpet. It's not that hot out today, so I'm really hoping if I do it first thing in the morning, it'll get dry enough to install this afternoon before I go home. But you guys got to take a look at this thing. It's absolutely disgusting. I mean, come on. I'm gonna soak it down with Purple Power, Simple Green, whatever I got. Let's see if I can't get some of these nasty stains out here. All right, let's get to it. All right, we'll check back in on that thing in a minute, let it dry for a bit and see what she looks like. While the carpet is out, there's one spot that's nasty, and I want to try to get that cleaned up before the carpet goes back in. I took all the trim home last night and I cleaned that by hand. So all the plastic, center console, kick panels, all that stuff's all clean. So once this carpet's dry, I want it to go right back in and all my panels will be clean. So let's tackle this little weird spot. So I think we're done cleaning, finally. We'll wait for the carpet to dry and put everything back in. The only, now that you mention it, the last thing I gotta do is clean up those door panels, but I may just clean those up while they're on the truck. But I'm gonna wait for the carpet to dry now, and I'm gonna get started on that suspension. And hopefully this thing will ride better and look better. I want to show you guys just how bad this suspension is. I hit the bump stops constantly on the freeway, especially over speed bumps, but even on the freeway, I'm down on the bump stops. There's like nothing, there's nothing there. This brutal. So let's get this thing flipped around and start putting these shocks in, and hopefully that solves most of the ride quality issues. Hop on his passenger side, it'll be the same as the driver's side. You can tell I'm a little winded, hungry. I'll get this other side knocked out and then we'll take a look at how she's sitting. I'm gonna take it for a cruise real quick to get some lunch, see how it drives, and then we'll carry on to the next thing. Boys, I fucked up. What in the South Carolina seashell necklace wearing backwards dad hat, sister kissing, god damn. All right, so I gotta redo the front. I'm gonna drop it down. I'm gonna drop it down 2 notches. Hopefully that gets me where I need to be. It's way high, it looks stupid. So I'm gonna redo the front real quick, which is unfortunate, but I should be good to go. Alright boys, I went around and cleaned everything I possibly could, so now it's time to put the carpet in. Looks a whole lot better. The center console cleaned up really nice. I dug in the shift boot. Cleaned all these door panels. There was gunk and all that stuff down in here and here. Jolly Ranchers melted in that one. So it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and get the seats in and wrap this thing up. There it is, guys, finished product. Not the best, certainly not the worst, and a great start for a rock crawler. So I'm super jazzed. It's been a nice long weekend cleaning this thing up, adjusting the suspension, doing the timing belt, oil change. I'm ready to start tearing this thing apart. So next thing up is gonna be pulling a bunch of bodywork off of this thing. The running boards, the tow hitch, the spare tire, the front and rear bumpers, mud guards, all that stuff. I have my winch right here with a universal winch plate that I got to build a bracket for. I got a bunch of tube. I'm gonna build front and rear bumpers, and my buddy has a set of sliders that I think he's gonna give me. And then it's gonna be time to chop for those 37s, so that'll be super fun. But I'm super excited, man. This thing is turning out nice. It started off, I was really wondering what I bought, but here we are, and it's coming together. So on that note, boys, we'll see you on the next one. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you like what you're seeing, this 4Runner is going to be a whole build series from stock to where it is now to 37s to tons and 40s. So if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button, and I'll keep you guys up to date with everything that's happening. And we're definitely taking this thing out on some adventures with the IFS and 37. So look forward to that. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one.